In 2026, in a quiet Texas suburb, a teenage boy lived what seemed to be a normal life, attending school, hanging out with friends, and dealing with the challenges of adolescence like any other teen. But beneath the surface, he had been prescribed a widely used acne medication, one of the most common treatments for severe skin conditions. And while this medication promised clear skin, it also came with rare but documented psychological side effects, including depression, mood swings, and in extremely rare instances, psychotic episodes. Yet nobody anticipated that such a medication could become central to a violent crime. A crime that would shock a community and spark debate across the nation. Because on what started as a seemingly normal day, the teen's interactions with his closest friends were recorded digitally, in messages, social media posts, and phone activity. And while these interactions seemed ordinary, investigators later discovered subtle indicators that something in his behavior had shifted. Not in a way visible to casual observers, but enough to suggest an internal struggle, a mounting tension, a psychological state being altered by something invisible, yet powerful. And this is where the story begins. Not with the act of violence itself, but with the ordinary reality of a young life quietly influenced. When we examine the trajectory leading up to the shooting, we see moments that in hindsight take on ominous significance. Late-night messages expressing frustration, online activity that reflected isolation, subtle withdrawal from friends and family, and behavioral changes that might have seemed minor to anyone else, but cumulatively indicated a disturbance in perception and judgment. And it is this quiet build-up, almost imperceptible, that investigators would later connect to the psychological effects of the medication. Because while the teen's social circle was unaware, the digital timeline captured fragments of a mental state gradually diverging from normal, showing moments of erratic typing, late-night online research into medications and their effects, mood-altering conversations with strangers, and minor disputes that escalated subtly, yet consistently, pointing toward an internal imbalance, a mental fragility that would soon manifest catastrophically. And as we trace these digital footprints, we see how ordinary objects became instruments of both documentation and insight, revealing patterns invisible to the naked eye but critical to understanding what was about to happen. And within this web of seemingly mundane data lies the first lesson, that the line between normalcy and danger can be invisible, measured not in dramatic gestures but in subtle shifts over time, and that these shifts, if left unnoticed, can culminate in shocking events. Because in the case of this teen, the medication he took would become the focal point of a national debate over responsibility and causation. And as the day progressed, nothing outwardly suggested the impending tragedy. His routine followed expected paths. Interactions were seemingly benign, but the psychological storm building beneath the surface was unobserved, unrecorded in real life, but quietly logged in a digital echo. And this dichotomy between visible normalcy and hidden disturbance sets the stage for the shocking events that would follow. The act that would ignite conversations about mental health, pharmaceuticals, and legal accountability. As we move into the next stage, we must understand this story is about the unseen forces that can push a person toward violence, the subtle interplay between brain chemistry, prescription drugs, and adolescent psychology. Because the act itself emerges from an intricate context. On the evening in question, the teen met with two of his closest friends in what seemed to be a casual hangout, transformed in minutes into an event that would terrify a community. Because suddenly, the teen produced a firearm and shot both friends, each suffering severe but non-fatal injuries. And the speed and randomness of the attack left witnesses stunned, unable to reconcile the violence with the familiar person they thought they knew. And it is in the immediate aftermath the controversy emerges, because unlike typical cases where motive can be inferred, this case introduced a new variable that would dominate courtrooms: the medication. The defense claimed the teen experienced a drug-induced psychotic break caused by the acne medication, an assertion that stunned legal experts, because it suggested that a chemical compound, intended for skincare, could alter behavior so dramatically that a law-abiding teen could commit violence. And as investigators pieced together the timeline, they examined physical evidence and digital traces that offered insight into his mental state, including timestamps of messages showing increasing agitation and social media posts that hinted at paranoia or irrational thought. While experts debated whether these signals could be interpreted as definitive evidence, the public was captivated by the idea. sparking debates about pharmaceuticals and criminal responsibility. And the defense's argument rested on medical literature documenting rare psychological effects, arguing that in the moments leading up to the shooting, the teen was not fully in control, that the medication had triggered a break from reality. And this claim ignited legal controversy because it challenged traditional ideas of culpability, forcing courts to confront the intersection of biology and law. As the case unfolded, experts presented testimonies and conflicting studies, while the families grappled with questions that could not be answered easily. At the heart of the trial was a chilling question. Can a medication, prescribed to millions, be legally responsible for extreme acts of violence? This question reverberated across the nation, making the story about risk, responsibility, and the fragile line between normalcy and catastrophe. Because what this case highlights is that substances designed to improve health can, in rare instances, have unpredictable consequences. As the trial progressed, attention turned to the teen's behavior in the days leading up to the attack, to subtle signs of stress or detachment, all of which contributed to a narrative that blended medical, psychological, and social factors into a story as compelling as it was disturbing. This interplay between normal life and a sudden act of violence forms the core of the case, because the public's fascination is with the terrifying possibility that something so common could trigger a catastrophic deviation from behavior, leaving communities and courts struggling to reconcile the predictable with the violent. And as this narrative unfolds, the case raises questions about human psychology, medical ethics, and the boundaries of responsibility in a chemically influenced world. When the case reached the courtroom, it became immediately clear that this trial would be unlike any ordinary criminal proceeding. The defense's claim of drug-induced psychosis turned the narrative from a straightforward act of violence into a national debate over medicine and law. Attorneys presented complex medical studies, expert witnesses, and precedent cases attempting to show that pharmaceuticals can dramatically alter behavior. The prosecution countered by emphasizing personal accountability, suggesting that environmental factors and conscious decision-making played far greater roles. As media coverage amplified, the story spread across social networks and news outlets, sparking heated debates between parents and doctors. Legal scholars analyzed the boundaries of culpability, while the public became captivated by the tension between science and law. At the core of this trial is a question that transcends a single case. When does chemical influence excuse a violent act? This question drove engagement online, with comment sections flooded by opinions and personal anecdotes, creating a viral conversation. The fascination is psychological as much as it is criminal, compelling viewers to imagine the thin line between normal behavior and catastrophic deviation. Jurors were presented with a timeline of activities, phone logs, and prescriptions, each piece contributing to a narrative that was chillingly complex. Ordinary tools of life, phones, prescriptions, and daily routines could converge to create a story that is simultaneously ordinary and horrifying. The defense presented scenarios in which minor chemical changes could amplify stress, trigger paranoia, or impair judgment. While extreme outcomes are rare, they are real and relevant to understanding the teen's state of mind during the incident. Psychologists and pharmacologists weighed in, illustrating not only the details of the crime but also broader societal implications. This story is about the unseen, potentially dangerous intersections of adolescence, prescription medicine, and human behavior. It combines crime, psychology, and medical controversy into a single, gripping story that captures the public imagination. Part 4. Aftermath, Debate, and Legacy. The aftermath of the shooting has continued to reverberate through Texas and beyond. Victims, families, and the teen himself are left to navigate the consequences of an act claimed to be influenced by chemicals. Public debate has exploded, with expert panels asking whether the justice system is equipped to handle drug-induced psychosis. Do pharmaceutical companies, doctors, and parents share responsibility for monitoring mental health in the context of prescribed medication? Acne medication is one of the most commonly prescribed drugs for teens, making the stakes feel frighteningly close to home. As educators and parents absorb the lessons, questions linger. Could this happen again? Are the safeguards enough? Humans are drawn to stories that combine ordinary life, hidden danger, and unanswered questions. The acne medication defense case offers a window into the fragility of behavior and the complexity of the human mind. This case will continue to be discussed, shaping conversations about pharmaceuticals, teenage mental health, and legal accountability for years to come. Every crime hides layers of complexity, motivations that are not always visible, and circumstances that challenge our assumptions. Remember, subscribe Criminalverse, where every crime hides a story.